Before compost bins existed, how farmers built soil with layers, an evergreen guide for Roots Haven grounds. Long before plastic compost bins, tumblers, and those perfect ratios charts ever existed, farmers were already building rich, living soil, quietly, patiently, and incredibly effectively. They didn't call it composting the way we do today. They simply worked with layers, time, and nature's own rhythms. Here at Roots Haven Grounds, we talk a lot about reconnecting with old wisdom. And this method, building soil through layered organic matter, is honestly one of the most powerful forgotten practices you can bring back into your garden today. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by compost rules or frustrated by slow results, this article will feel like a breath of fresh air. Let's step back in time and uncover how farmers built fertile soil without bins, thermometers, or turning schedules, and how you can do the same. For most of human history, soil fertility wasn't something you bought in bags. It was something you built, season after season, right where crops were grown. Farmers didn't separate composting from gardening. The soil itself was the composting system. Fields, kitchen scraps, animal bedding, crop residues, leaves, ash, and weeds all returned to the land in layers. Decomposition happened slowly but deeply, feeding not just plants but soil organisms, fungi, and earthworms. This wasn't laziness, it was efficiency rooted in observation. Farmers noticed that forests really thrived without any human intervention. Leaves would fall, branches would decay, and the soil just stayed so dark and crumbly. So, they started copying that system in their fields and gardens, layer by layer. At its heart, layered soil building is all about stacking organic materials right on the ground and just letting nature do its thing. Instead of tossing waste into a bin, everything stayed in contact with all that amazing soil life. Each layer actually served a purpose. Some would feed microbes pretty quickly, while others broke down slowly, helping to improve the soil's structure. And together they created a really nice balance. This approach wasn't rushed. Farmers accepted that soil building is a long game. The reward, honestly, was soil that held water, resisted erosion, and produced resilient crops year after year. If you garden today and struggle with dry soil, weak plants, or constant fertilizing, layered soil building may be exactly what your land is asking for. Traditional farmers rarely piled organic matter on concrete or boards. Everything started on bare soil. This allowed earthworms, beetles, bacteria, and fungi to move freely between layers and soil below. If your ground was compacted or tired, they didn't dig deeply. Instead, they covered it. Nature heals soil from the top down. In your garden, this means you don't need to double dig or till aggressively. Simply clear large debris, loosen the surface slightly if needed, and begin layering. Carbon-rich materials formed the bulk of traditional soil layers. These included dry leaves, straw, stalks, husks, dried grass, sawdust, and even shredded bark. These materials broke down slowly, improving soil structure and creating long-term organic matter. Farmers understood that carbon prevented nutrients from washing away and kept soil loose and breathable. In today's gardens, carbon layers are often undervalued. We rush to add greens, forgetting that carbon is what builds lasting soil. When you add carbon-rich layers, you're not just feeding plants. You're building a sponge that holds water and nutrients through droughts and heavy rains alike. Between carbon layers, farmers added nitrogen-rich materials. Fresh weeds, kitchen scraps, manure, green leaves, and crop residues all played a role. Nitrogen sped up decomposition and fed soil microbes, which in turn released nutrients plants could actually use. The beauty of the layered approach is balance. Nitrogen never stood alone. It was always cushioned by carbon, preventing foul smells, pests, and nutrient loss. For modern gardeners, this means you don't need to measure ratios obsessively. Just remember this rhythm: dry, then green, then dry again. In traditional systems, animals were part of soil building, not separate from it. Bedding from livestock, straw mixed with manure, was layered directly onto fields or gardens. This material decomposed slowly, adding fertility while protecting soil from sun and erosion. Farmers didn't fear unfinished compost. They trusted soil organisms to handle it. If you keep chickens, rabbits, or goats today, their bedding is gold. Just layer it under mulch or between crops, and, honestly, let time do the rest. Even without animals, you're part of this cycle. Your kitchen scraps and garden waste are, well, today's version of ancient fertility. Layered soil building wasn't a one-time event. It actually followed the seasons. In autumn, fallen leaves and crop residues blanketed the land. Winter snow and rain pressed layers down gently, encouraging slow breakdown. By spring, the soil beneath was alive and ready. Farmers didn't rush to clean up gardens. Mess was part of the system. If you garden today, resist the urge to strip beds bare. Layer generously before winter. You'll be amazed at what greets you when planting season returns. So, compost bins are useful, but honestly, they separate decomposition from where the nutrients are actually needed most. Layered soil building, on the other hand, keeps everything right in place. With this method, roots grow directly into fertility. Microbes don't need to be transported, which is super convenient. Moisture stays locked in, and weeds really struggle to germinate under those thick layers. For beginners, this method just removes so much pressure. There's no turning schedule, no overheating pile, and no fear of, doing it wrong. For experienced gardeners, layers create deeper soil over time, not just seasonal compost additions. This is soil building, not waste management. Many gardeners worry about pests, smells, or disease when layering organic matter. Traditional farmers face the same concerns and learned that balance solves most problems. So, thick carbon layers actually prevent odors, which is pretty cool. And, having diverse materials in your compost really helps discourage pests. Plus, when your soil life is healthy, it totally outcompetes pathogens. Problems usually pop up when one material starts to take over. Like if you have too much food waste without enough carbon, or, honestly, too much manure without some kind of cover, things can get out of balance. Nature thrives on diversity, and, well, so should your soil. At Roots Haven Grounds, we believe gardening should feel grounding, not stressful. Layered soil building fits perfectly with that philosophy. You don't need perfect timing, expensive tools, or specialized bins. You need patience, observation, and a willingness to let the soil teach you. Start small, one bed, one season. Watch how the earth responds. Over time, you'll notice fewer weeds, stronger plants, and soil that smells rich and alive. That's not luck. That's centuries-old wisdom returning to your garden. When you layer organic matter on your soil, you're participating in an ancient conversation between humans and the land. You're honoring farmers who understood that fertility isn't manufactured, it's cultivated. Before compost bins existed, soil was built with trust in natural processes. And honestly, those processes haven't changed. Your garden doesn't need more inputs. What it really needs is continuity, care, and layers. If this article helped you see soil building in a new light, go ahead and subscribe to Roots Haven Grounds on YouTube for more grounded, practical gardening wisdom. Share this with a fellow gardener who's tired of overcomplicating compost, and let's bring these timeless methods back to life, one layer at a time.